Nataf, nataf, nataf means falling down in drops, to speak by inspiration, by the spirit of revelation, shining forth those hidden treasures from God's word.
Okay, we were talking last week about the circumcision of Moses' son, or well, it wasn't last week, but the last time we had a lesson, and how that she struck him by circumcising his son, and God had mercy upon him. And really what it was leading to is just to let you see and understand what the striking of the hands, the smiting of the hands. We go up to someone today and we'll do this or we'll do this, and it's just kind of a thing that people do now, but people don't realize when they're doing that where that it comes from, how far back, how ancient a thing it is to strike the hands. And I'm going to show you how that it meant that a person was making a pledge, making a covenant. And so we need to be careful what we do, because sometimes we don't even know what we're doing, and we don't know where the symbolism came from that we're doing, but it comes from back a long way. Somebody say, oh no, that's just something made up a few years ago. No, we don't just make up things. Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun. So striking hands is nothing new. It's been done for thousands of years. Joshua 2:17-21. And the men said to her, we will be blameless of this thy oath, which you have made us swear. Behold, when we come to the land, you shall bind this line. And the word line here means, it's the Hebrew word tikva, and it means hope. You should bind this line, but it also means a cord or a rope, or a thread or something like that. And so he told her, you put this red rope or this red cord, whatever it was, in the window. It was the one that she let them down the wall with so that they could escape and from the men of that city. And he said, if you put this in your window when we come back, then we'll spare you and your family. He said, and we're going to read the rest of it. It said, behold, when we come into the land, you shall bind this line of scarlet thread in the window which you did let us down by, and you shall bring your father and your mother and your brethren and all your father's household home to you. And it shall be that whosoever shall go out of the doors of your house into the street, his blood will be upon his head, and we will be guiltless. And whoever shall be with you in the house, his blood shall be on our head if any hand is upon him. And if you utter this our business, then we will be quit of our oath, or in other words, we'll be loose from our oath, which you have made us to swear. And she said, according to your words, so be it. And she sent them away, and they departed, and she bound the scarlet line in the window. And what you've got to realize about this is so important. This is the city of Jericho, which later is destroyed by the children of Israel walking around it once every day for 6 days and 7 times the seventh day. And that's the same instance here. But anyway, that's what they later do. They come back and do. But you've got to realize there's so much going on here. There's so much symbolism going on here that's pointing to something greater. And we're not going to get on all that, but what I want you to see about this and realize about this is he told her to put that scarlet rope in the window so that they could see it and then know, and everybody, then the children of Israel would know, don't touch anybody in that house. So what this red thread, this tikva, this hope represented was hope. This red thread was called scarlet tikva. I won't even get into the word scarlet. That's a whole totally new lesson as well, which is a beautiful picture. I mean, if you knew these things already when I'm teaching this, this verse would just come alive to you. But right now, what I want you to see about this was the scarlet thread represented hope. It means hope in Hebrew. So this was her hope. This was her family's hope. This red robe was her family's hope. This red thread, and you know the red thread that runs through the Bible is our hope, because it points to the blood of Jesus. This striking of covenant, this cutting of covenant, it has to do with blood. It has to do with red. It's our hope. It's our hope. And this was her hope at this time. Okay, now Job 17:3 says, lay down now, put me in a surety with you. Who is he that will strike hands with me? See now, striking of hands has to do with pledge or covenant, and I'm going to show you that by reading some other scriptures. But I'll read this one first. He says, lay down now, put me in a surety. Surety means pledge. It means to braid, like a woman would braid her daughter's hair or her hair. It means to braid, to intermingle, to intertwine, to traffic, to barter, just We don't think of trading with someone as braiding, but that's what that word in Hebrew means, to braid, to intertwine, it means to traffic, or to have a pledge or some kind of exchange. Okay, so striking hands is a general expression of an agreement that's made, or a covenant that's made. Keep that in mind, and so you'll remember that. Ezra 10:19 says, "And they gave their hands that they would put away their wives, and being guilty, they offered a ram of the flock for their trespass." Now what's happened here, they married women that God told them do not marry. So when they do this, God says, now, he goes to Joshua and he said, they've got to put away those wives. I told them don't marry any of the women, the Canaanites. They did. Now they're going to have to put them away. And so the striking of the hands, or the giving of the hands, was showing that they were putting away their wives, and they offered this sacrifice for their trespass, for their sin, so that God would forgive them. Okay, Ezekiel 17:18. Verse 18 says, "Seeing he despised the oath by breaking the covenant." Notice that. Seeing he despised the oath. To know, when they took an oath, they swore an oath. They 7 to 7, in other words. And they took this oath and they cut covenant. It says, "Seeing he despised the oath by breaking the covenant, when lo, he had given his hand and had done all these things, he shall not escape." Now, you've got to realize that if there wasn't an animal, if there wasn't something that they could sacrifice, then they would strike the hands through the cutting of blood, or through the slapping of the hands. Whatever that they had, it all represented covenant. And the striking of the hands, when there wasn't a way of maybe cutting and getting the blood, they would strike the hands. But most of the time when you see the phrase striking of hands, it means they've cut their hands and the blood has came out, and they intermingled the blood some way or the other. Sometimes it just means striking hands, but sometimes it actually means striking the hands, like I talked the last lesson about Moses' son Gershom, his wife, just striking the foreskin and cutting it off in circumcision. So striking of the hands has to do with the covenant, cutting the covenant. It means to clatter. Striking means to clatter, to slap the hands, clang an instrument, drive a nail, to become a bondsman, a hand clasping, and it can also mean blow a trumpet, pitch a tent, smite, strike, suretyship or pledge, thrust. Now the word hand is the word yod. It means the open hand, which means it indicates power, direction, a means or a way of doing something. So the hand, striking of the hands, represents the power of the hand, the power of the covenant. There's so much in the Hebrew words. I wished I could just, help people to understand that and grasp that. But without a pretty good study in Hebrew, most people are just not going to get that. But take my word for it. If you don't believe me, do it yourself. Get out there and study it and learn it. So the striking of the hands indicates cutting a covenant. Now Proverbs 22:26 says, "Be not one of them that strike hands, or of them that are sureties for debts," or pledged for debts. That pretty much tells us plainly there we don't need to go into debt, basically. We don't need to make pledges and covenants of debt that we can't keep, or that we're not sure that we can keep, which it says don't do it at all. But I mean, I'm just saying, a lot of people, we live in a day and age where you can't have anything unless you sign a contract for debt. And so you don't need to do that if you don't know that you can pay for it. And the thing is, we don't know that. So he says, no, God said, don't be one of them that strike hands, which means cut covenant, or the sureties for debt. And you say, well, it's wrong to cut covenant. What he's talking about is to cut a covenant for a debt. Okay. Now let's look at Deuteronomy 26:8. "And the Lord brought us forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand, with an outstretched arm, with a great terribleness, with signs and with wonders." This is showing his mighty power, his open hand, his mighty arm of deliverance, and it has to do with covenant again as well. God cut covenant through his arm. Okay, Psalms 89:13 says, "You have a mighty arm, strong is your hand, and high is your right hand." The right hand has to do with cutting covenant, swearing, taking an oath. And you've got to remember that from all the other scriptures that the past teachings that I've done. Genesis 24, verse 2 through 4, verse 8, verse 9, and verse 22. I'm going to read. Abraham said to his servant, the elder of his house, that ruled over all that he had, Put, I pray you, your hand under my thigh, and I'll make you swear by Yahweh, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not take a wife from my son of the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I dwell. But you shall go into my country, into my kindred, and take a wife from my son Isaac. 8. And if the woman be not willing to follow you, then you shall be clear from this my oath. Only you shall not bring my son here again. And the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master, and swore to him concerning this matter. Verse 22. And it came to pass, as the camels had done drinking, that the man took a golden ring of half a shekel weight, and 2 bracelets for her hands of 10 shekels weight of gold. Now that had to do, the rings, the ring and the bracelets had to do with covenant again. You got to realize that, as I mentioned, binding, bracelet, fetter, those things all are tied in with covenant, because this was something they did. They gave something like this to show that they had cut a covenant with someone. It wasn't just a striking of the hands, but it was a giving of gifts, and sometimes that was rings or bracelets or something that bound the hands. But the word for binding, which is the same word for bracelet, has to do with cutting covenant in the Arabic, in the ancient languages, the ancient Semitic languages. It has to do with cutting covenant. And we're not talking about some modern thing that God came up with. We're talking about something that happened thousands of years ago, something that they understood. We've got to understand the Bible in the context that it was written and in the culture that it was written, and as much as we can in the language that it was written. You know, we kind of stopped giving it this modern theories and ideas because it's wrong. I mean, we can't understand it on the modern level. We've got to go back to the times that it was written and understand it. People say, well, yes, it sounds like you're making the scriptures hard. No. I mean, so maybe some of them are, but, you know, no, the salvation is simple. I'm not talking about salvation. That's pretty simple. But it still comes from the ancient covenant, and I mean, you're not going to realize how important salvation is unless you understand the ancient covenant. I mean, it goes back to the idea of covenant. And understanding covenant is vital to understanding the whole Bible, because most of the Bible is about covenant. And if we don't understand covenant, we're not going to get it. We take everything so lightly in this generation, so lightly. Everything, marriage, children, debt, everything is taken so lightly, but that's not the way that it's supposed to be. That's not the way it's supposed to be.